Anya, it looks like there might be problems with the protests because there are police.
No, it's not a problem.
It's not a problem?
No, the only problem was that it was supposed to be around 2 o'clock.
In Poland, it's required by the law that if you organize this kind of protest, you have to actually report that to the authorities, and the authorities will show up. I have to show my ID that I am the organizer of this protest, and they give you a go, and then they are basically here for our safety.
I'm here in Warsaw to observe a protest in the city centre. There's a loudspeaker, there are signs, there are flyers, but this is no normal protest. These people are not protesting climate change or some military intervention by their government. These are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses warning members of the public about their former faith. It turns out Poland is pretty much ground zero for increasing numbers of Jehovah's Witnesses becoming disaffected with their religion, with the group shedding 11,000 members in this country alone in the 10 years between 2009 and 2019. I want to know what's causing this phenomenon. It seems clear there's no shortage of interest from members of the public in what these protesters have to say.
We meet Jehovah's Witnesses all around. We don't know the harm that they are doing inside the organization.
Jest to straszne, takie pokazują chamstwo, jak się do nich, do tej sekty Jehowych nie chce przystąpić, to pokazują takie chamstwo, taką nienawiść, takie okrucieństwo, że po prostu to jest sekta. A miałam do czynienia, miałam.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Uciekam, jak widzę ich to z daleka, omijam ich z szeregi. Dziękuję, pozdrawiam.
Dziękuję.
Do widzenia.
From my perspective as an ex-Jehovah's Witness writer and activist, the interest generated by my Polish comrades seems heartening. But what is fueling this groundswell of apostasy in which thousands have abandoned their cherished beliefs? In this film, I'll be delving deeper by learning from several Polish ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, each of whom will share insights that will help me in my quest to uncover the truth behind this Polish exodus. It looks like it's quite complicated getting so much signage into a public space. More complicated than people maybe think.
Yes.
Yeah. As you might expect, public protests with signs, flyers, loudspeakers, and even printed canopy tents call for no small amount of organisation and planning. As my new friends arrived at a nearby underground car park, I was anxious to learn more about their goals and methods.
So this protest today would be more for the general public, because that's also our goal. Not only to let the witnesses know so they can get out, but I think what's even more important, to educate the public so nobody else would get in and get hurt.
So you're tailoring your message depending on who your audience is here. Yeah. 1975.
Yeah, so it says that year 75 is a false prophecy of the governing of the slaves, who to this day blames some publishers for. And this is like one of the proofs that they obviously were writing about that.
Sure. And what's the other sign that you've got there, Anya?
Give us our families back.
Give us our families back.
In my opinion, it's really important. Like the general public knows very, very little about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And just a few years ago, if you asked the general public, they said that they are nice people, they don't swear, they don't drink, and so on and so forth.
It was really popular opinion in Poland. Like they were, they are this nice, good, decent people. It was like, but now?
In recent years, and I think a bit thanks to the protests, to our many events that we organized, I think this gradually starts to change, and now in the comment sections on some websites you can see that shift. People a few years ago would say the things like they are nice people and so on and so forth. Now in comment sections you will very often see watch out for these guys, this is a cult.
It was becoming clear that Maciej was very much the driving force behind this group. He was a seemingly limitless source of energy from which others could draw. This was even more obvious as we made our way above ground and Maciej deployed the loudspeakers.
Drodzy mieszkańcy Warszawy, zapraszamy serdecznie na momencik. Przepraszamy, że przerywamy Wam codzienne sprawy. Chcemy wszystkich poinformować na temat tego, jak niebezpieczna jest organizacja Świadków Jehowy, co może się stać, jeśli byście do takiej organizacji przyłączyli się. Nie chcemy mówić tutaj nic personalnie o ludziach, chcemy mówić o systemie, który stara się wyglądać dobrze, stara się pokazywać jako pokojowy, jako pomagający ludziom, a tak naprawdę może w rezultacie nawet niszczyć życie ludzi. Zapraszamy, żeby dowiedzieć się więcej. Nie chcemy Was zwerbować do żadnej religii. Zapewniamy Was, że nie jesteśmy z żadnej innej organizacji religijnej. Nie chcemy nagabywać nikogo do niczego. Chcemy ostrzegać. Chcemy ostrzegać, żeby nikt z Państwa i z Państwa rodzin nie wpadł w pułapkę, którą starają się takie ruchy religijne jak Świadkowie Jehowy zastawiać na ludzi, którzy mają problemy, na ludzi, którzy cierpią, chcą im pomóc, tak przynajmniej mówią, a tak naprawdę doprowadzają do wielu tragedii. Tragedii takich jak rozbijanie rodzin, a nawet śmierć wskutek odmowy transfuzji krwi. Zapraszamy po materiały bezpłatne, mamy ulotki, które na ten temat mówią. Zapraszamy też na stronę internetową, na której jest więcej informacji. Albo możemy po prostu porozmawiać z Wami. Chcemy dzisiaj o tym głośno powiedzieć. Chcemy przerwać milczenie, które przez wiele lat Organizacja Świadków Jehowy chciała, żebyśmy milczali. Chcemy dzisiaj przerwać to milczenie i powiedzieć Wam, jakie są niebezpieczeństwa. Zapraszamy do porozmawiania, do wzięcia ulotki, do sprawdzenia w internecie i życzymy miłego dnia.
Is it very empowering to speak publicly in that way? It must feel like a rush to declare publicly how you feel to total strangers.
Well, empowering maybe, but I'm trembling. It's not like I am made for this. Well, it's not painful, but it is stressful.
Yeah.
It is stressful because, like when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, we knocked on people's door, obviously thinking that we had the truth, and it still was stressful. Just because you're talking to strangers, you don't know how people will react, whether they will listen to you or maybe ridicule you because they don't agree with your views. So it is stressful, but I feel someone needs to say that aloud. I feel a sense of accomplishment when I hear stories, and we do hear those stories, about people who heard us when we did those protests, and they said, they gave us a thumbs up that we're doing something that is important. Like even today, there were a couple of people who just.
Well, someone's literally just taking a leaflet right now. So
yeah,
that's one thing that really impresses me is we've seen so many people taking an interest in what you're doing just in the short time we've been here.
Yeah, we are trying to basically raise awareness so people will not fall for the trap of the unconditional love and all that things that Jehovah's Witnesses try to sell when they are knocking to the people's doors.
Despite finding the whole thing stressful, Maciej had by this point racked up a number of protests and seemed to be growing into something of a leadership role. Meanwhile, there was another member of our group for whom this was all very new.
Very comfortable because this is my first protest.
I was going to ask you how many protests you look like a natural.
Yeah.
You don't look.
I have experience with card witnessing. It's similar.
Are you nervous doing this?
Not very nervous, but just a little bit.
Yeah. What's making you nervous?
I don't feel very comfortable with situations like this. But when I don't have to say something publicly, it's pretty good. I think it's just a new situation for me. I think maybe for first time, but I realize myself with different ways of activism. So
this is definitely new for me. I'll give you that much. It struck me that the protesters had more in common than just their mutual religious background. They also shared a burning passion to spread their message, a passion fierce enough to overcome any personal unease or apprehension. To learn more about this small band of dedicated activists, I sat down with Maciej to find out where it all started for him.
in 2017, we went to Wrocław, and that was our first big protest. We went to the city square, and we had signs. We even had this billboard.
Wow! So it's been towed by a car and everything.
It was towed, and it was going all around the city.
Who pays for this? This looks like it's quite expensive.
We gathered up, basically. There was one person who wants to remain unnamed, who gave most of the money because he's also in a very tough spot. He cannot escape the cult at this point.
I felt enormous respect for Maciej and his fellow activists, including those who were supporting from the sidelines, for providing what was essentially a public service. Few understand just how harmful the Jehovah's Witness religion actually is when you scratch beneath the surface. This is a group with an established track record of breaking apart families through shunning, dissuading higher education, covering up child sex abuse, not allowing abused spouses to remarry without penalties, and even persuading people to die rather than accept blood transfusions. When a group is responsible for this much pain and misery without offering any kind of transparency when attracting new converts, it makes sense for there to be a counter-narrative in just the same way as you would expect consumer advice steering people away from loan sharks or multi-level marketing scams. Where I felt some trepidation was in the area of protesting in the faces of believing Jehovah's Witnesses. There is an ugly history of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses going too far by being confrontational towards their former brethren, with some engaging in so-called cart crashing, kingdom hall crashing, and interrupting conventions and assemblies. Apart from being antagonistic and potentially constituting harassment, I've long been concerned that this sort of aggressive behaviour is ultimately counterproductive to the XJW cause. In my view, you don't change people's minds by shoving signs in their faces. It's far better to make compelling resources available so that when individual witnesses are ready to take that journey, they can do so at their own pace. I was aware that in addition to his street initiatives, Maciej had also been involved in protests outside conventions, and I hope to find out what, if any, response these had received. You were saying about protesting at a convention.
Yeah, so that was the same year, just in summer. We had leaks from the convention, so we knew what would happen, what videos would be played, and so on.
Which year was it?
2017. So this
was the. It was Don't Give Up 2017, I think. Was it?
It was probably Don't Give Up. Well,
Remain Loyal to Jehovah, Don't Give Up, and then it was Be Courageous, I think.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah, don't give up. So we had original badges,
so you had original badges printed. So you were protesting outside, but you were also going into the venue, were you? And what were you doing inside the venue?
Just recording. Nothing else.
You weren't
really
disrupting the meeting.
No, absolutely. And we still got kicked out just for the recording.
Just out of interest, why wouldn't you disrupt the meeting?
Well, while still many people don't agree with this kind of activism, I believe that there is still a fine line between just peacefully protesting and saying things without any aggression, without any unnecessary emotions, without disrupting them, and just actively trying to make them miserable. I don't think this latter is the way to go. I think the former is. So that's why we were dressed like Jehovah's Witnesses and even had those badges. And even though we had a speaker, we didn't really yell at them. We just spoke about.
Yeah, that fascinates me. So you went inside, but even though you were making a very loud public protest outside, you say you draw the line at disrupting a religious event. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't believe that's the way to go, because they obviously felt persecuted even by us just standing there.
Yeah,
we've heard that all the time, that they are persecuted. What really excited us and surprised us, that when we were speaking, people were actually standing there on the railings, like here, and listening to what we are saying. I thought they will just, because there were some who would just plug their ears, exactly, like physically plug their ears.
You would expect them to completely avoid.
Yeah. So for me, this shows that some, at least some, have the curiosity to at least hear what we have to say. And this is encouraging, because after the event, we did have some people who told us that this was one of the things that made them aware of that something is up, and in the process wake up from the indoctrination.
The question I have is that you were saying earlier that you were terrified of questioning your beliefs the very first time that your wife started investigating, and you were scared of questioning your beliefs. Do you ever wonder whether that's the thought process going through the mind of people who are seeing you at the convention?
Well, I think that people are different, and while I was scared, my wife wasn't. So if we were there, maybe I wouldn't listen, but she would.
Do you think you, when you were indoctrinated, would have been intimidated by that?
Maybe yes. But my point is that while some people will say that this even strengthens their faith, that they are persecuted, others maybe made to think about some things, because we really tried not to use like any apostate material in these presentations. Like we had obviously some banners like give us our families back, or about 1975, because that was the year when they said specifically from the platform that 75 didn't really happen. Like it was only preachers who did that. And we had printouts with those Watchtower magazines that specifically said about 75, about that this is the special year, that 6,000 years and everything.
It was obvious that Maciej's approach to protesting at conventions was principled and well thought out, and though I couldn't remember my former self being swayed by apostate signs when I'd attended conventions as an indoctrinated witness, I agreed with his point about everyone being different. It's almost inevitable that seeds will be sown in the minds of at least some witnesses who may fleetingly glance at these presentations, provided they are executed intelligently, respectfully, and with sensitivity to their target audience. As long as the focus stays on helping believing witnesses rather than giving ex-witnesses a platform to vent, and provided extra care is taken to ensure convention attendees aren't made to feel in any way obstructed in their efforts to congregate peacefully, I can certainly see value in initiatives of this kind. With this thorny issue out of the way, I wanted to know more about what had led Maciej to abandon his beliefs and go on to become such a thorn in the side for witnesses in Poland. He told me he had taken his faith very seriously as a believer, having been appointed an elder at just 26, which is very young for Jehovah's Witness men. But his faith began to unravel when he moved congregations and met another witness elder, and together they began consulting the Bible independently. When his friend began partaking of the memorial bread and wine in 2014, a sign that he felt destined to rule in heaven, unlike the vast majority of witnesses who believe they will live on a paradise earth, Maciej found himself defending his friend when quizzed by a lady in their congregation.
I told her that, we found out those very interesting things in the Bible, that maybe, just maybe, everybody should partake in the memorial. That was what I said in that evening on the meeting hall. So just the very next day, I have a knock on my door, and this is this person that I spoke to, this woman. And she asked me some more questions, like, why do you think so? And do you think the slave is wrong? And well, I still thought that she was just interested, so I obviously spilled the beans for her, what I think, what we think, and so on.
She was interrogating you.
She was interrogating me. She probably did record what I was saying, because later I heard my exact words from the elders, like 2 weeks later.
Yes, Maciej had made the mistake of openly sharing views considered apostate by his religion. Thus commenced a witch hunt by his circuit overseer, or local organisational representative, who paid Maciej a visit at his home.
They tried to make them look friendly, themselves look friendly, and then it all started. Like, Maciej, we've heard some very disturbing things about what you believe. And I was like, what exactly? That you believe that everyone should partake the memorial and some other things. He then starts talking about how I said some things to my sister, and he asked me, why did you tell her that you shouldn't always listen to the faithful slave and you should broaden your views? And I was like, how do you know what I said to my sister? Later it turned out that my sister had no part of this, but this overseer already made his investigation. He went to my former congregation. He interrogated several brothers and sisters about what I said to them, one of which was my sister and her husband, who then he approached to actually, without my sister's knowledge, get her messaging history with me, dig through all of it, and find some juicy bits that could be used up against me.
So your circuit overseer recruited your brother-in-law to go into your sister's messaging history to find out whether you'd said anything incriminating.
Yeah.
Apart from this being incredibly invasive and underhanded behaviour, if Maciej's circuit overseer had indeed accessed his private online messages in search of incriminating information, he could well have been on the wrong side of Polish law. After both Maciej and his friend found themselves stripped of their positions as elders, with both promising to stop spreading their views, Maciej decided to write to the Polish headquarters in Nadezhin to respectfully lodge a complaint.
We felt very violated, so obviously what I did, like an exemplary witness, I wrote to the branch office that something's wrong here, that people shouldn't be treated that way. And even if we did something wrong when we spoke to other people about our dads, okay, but this person, this circuit overseer, obviously overstepped his authority here by coercing other people to divulge our private messages and so on. You know what answer I got from Nadezhin? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. A month later, the elders just received a letter of confirmation that I am not. I think it's confirmation of deletion, something like that.
Yeah.
That I'm not an elder anymore, and Jacek is an elder and isn't an elder anymore. So again, I wrote to them. But okay, I accept that decision. Maybe I did something wrong, but still, please, at least look into this person, because he didn't behave like a good circuit overseer should, and he may mistreat other people if he continues to behave that way. And again, absolute radio silence. 1 year later, I actually rang to the branch office. I was already mentally out, but I wanted to have closure on this matter. So I rang to this to branch office, and I actually recorded that conversation. We spoke for a while with this person. I told him that there is this case. He found the records of this case, and he said, yeah, I see that you didn't receive any answer to your letters, but were you really anticipating any response? And I just laughed at this point. I just burst in laugh.
You were just writing letters and not expecting a response.
Yeah, that's my hobby. I just write letters in my spare time.
Dear President Trump, I know you will never reply to this letter, but here's 2 pages of,
And you know what's funny? It's actually more probable that President Trump would respond to my letter than the government.
He'd at least tweet you, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would tweet me at least.
Wow.
I think that was, like I said, that was a tipping point for us because up till this point, we only examined the teachings, which, again, we thought that maybe new light will come, or maybe we are wrong and something will adjust our way of thinking. Maybe Jehovah will bless us with something. But when we saw firsthand that the higher-ups of the organization are not abiding to the rules and nobody is listening, and we write to Nadarzhan and nothing happens, that's when we allowed ourselves to think that maybe, just maybe, something is wrong more than what we initially thought.
Having experienced firsthand the cold, uncompromising, vindictive side of the organisation, Maciej could now finally give himself permission to see just how deep the rabbit hole went. By 2015, already well along in awakening from his indoctrination, Maciej's journey would intersect with developments in Australia and a certain royal commission that was looking into child sexual abuse.
We were at vacation with our other friends who were also out. Well, not physically out, but mentally. We had this small apostate gathering at the beach. And I was like, because this was Australia time, so it was like 3 or 4 a.m. and I was not sleeping a little bit, translating into Polish like frantically to show them in the morning what has been said in every day, and especially when Jackson got into interrogation. I think when I saw Jackson, that was the last straw that broke the camel back.
Do you accept corporal punishment?
In our literature, I think you'll see time and time again, we've endeavored to explain that here, discipline is referring to more a mental point of view.
I regret to tell you, you're still not answering my question. Do you accept corporal punishment?
No.
You don't?
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
When I saw him lie about treating children, that they don't use corporal punishment for children, that they are not the sole authority, Jehovah's authority on earth, that it would be presumptuous. Yeah. That really struck my nerve. Like, I said, what? For 14 years, I was saying to people that you are. And there was nothing that literature would say that they aren't, or maybe they are doubts, and maybe it would be presumptuous. It was 100% closed deal.
But Maciej was not the only one to be profoundly affected by the video testimony coming out of the Australian Royal Commission in 2015, which clearly demonstrated both the negligence of Jehovah's Witnesses in the area of child safeguarding and the lies and evasions to which their leaders will stoop when subjected to external scrutiny. When I spoke to another protester, Patrick, about his experience, it was clear that the Australian Royal Commission had been a damning revelation for him as well.
The knowledge is the power. I started to get this knowledge approximately 9-10 years ago. I had some pause in getting those information, and finally, after the Royal Commission, which I heard about that, I started to watch these videos, and then after a few years of pause I started to get more and more information, and finally 3 years of breaking this wall, I'm free.
Would you say that the knowledge that you refer to about the Australian Royal Commission, was that an integral part of your awakening?
Yes, yes. I was, I would say, kind of ashamed of what are they talking, how do they acting before the court. I noticed clear hypocrisy, two standards, something other told in printed publications for the Society of New World and something different before the official governments. The word of Jackson, who said that it would be ignorant from our part saying that we are the only one group by which God speaks to people. Once from the watchtower awake, all publications and all public talks, we know something different.
Obviously, current and former witnesses throughout the world have access to the footage from the Australian Royal Commission, but not all countries have seen a fall in witness numbers of 11,000 in just the last 10 years. I asked Patrick what made his country so special.
I think we should take into account also a wider context of our society. All things people in Poland experienced past few centuries. People in Poland don't like bullshit, and the manifestation of this attitude we saw in the history against the German nation, Russian nation, and now as people with the same mindset were under influence of American doctrine, the same mindset, I think, made them ready to do that move, to discover what is behind the curtain. People don't want to be limited with the information. They want to take a look what's going on outside of this wall, and they do so.
With Patrick pointing to the history of the Polish people and their weariness of outside interference, I was getting the distinct impression that there might be something in the Polish DNA that was making it so difficult for Jehovah's Witness indoctrination to take hold. But I was also anxious to address the issue of emigration. Whenever I make a video mentioning the drop in Polish witness numbers, someone will almost inevitably comment that this is purely down to witnesses moving abroad for work. But I have a number of problems with this reasoning. Firstly, it seems a bit patronising to suggest that Polish people are itching to escape their country in such noticeable numbers. I was seeing no obvious reason during my first trip to this beautiful, vibrant country for its population to be leaving in any hurry. Secondly, the statistics don't add up. If the Polish exodus were purely about emigration, we would expect to see the population of Poland fall in proportion to the fall in witness numbers. That's simply not happening. Thirdly, even if every last one of the 11,000 missing witnesses had moved to, say, the UK, doesn't that just shift the problem elsewhere? In other words, if the 11,000 had moved to the UK, that would mean Poland isn't dramatically in decline, but the UK is. Anyway, preferring to hear what an actual Polish person would make of it all, I met up with Szymon Matuszak, a veteran Polish ex-Jehovah's Witness who had been a friend of the late Raymond Franz and translator of his celebrated book Crisis of Conscience into Polish. Some people look at what's happening in Poland and they argue that it's nothing to do with resources perhaps, or with protests or whatever. It's because Polish people are moving to other countries. What do you say to that?
I believe that it's not true. It is partly true that people migrated to Britain or other countries, but some are coming back. I believe that I have a contact with a former circuit overseer who told me that in his area, as far as he remembers, there was no such a departure from the organization as now. He has a comparison because he's about 60 years old and he was brought up in the witness organization. And even after 1975, there was no such loss of numbers in the membership of the Watchtower. So it is a simplified version that just people left and they are lacking. No, it is something more. Also I, on personal basis, I receive many letters, many emails and telephones from people who want to leave the Watchtower, and sometimes they live in such kind of underground because they have a wife or family which is against their mind, against their searching for truth. So I have a comparison. When I left the organization in December 2001, there was just a handful of former witnesses. Now there is a really great number of people. And the internet forums also contributed very much for such people, for their openness of their mind.
Having hopefully put to bed this idea that 11,000 Polish witnesses have left because they didn't want to live in Poland anymore, I asked Szymon what he thought the real cause might be.
As a country, we are put between East and West. And we are always in the zone of someone else's, sometimes unhelpful for us actions. Some political actions, ways to dominate Poland, to use our country for someone else's means or purposes. So as Polish people, we were in many afflictions during history. And Polish people generally love freedom. And that is why we can say not about one uprising in Poland, but about many uprisings in Poland. Specific nature of Polish people is that they love freedom. There was a popular rock group in Poland, which they had a song that freedom, that is what I understand and love. Freedom, I cannot resign from it. And it is something like that, it in our blood, in our mind.
Wolność, kochani, rozumiem, wolności oddać nie umiem. Wolność, kochani, rozumiem, wolności oddać nie umiem.
Apparently Patrick had been onto something. Szymon was seemingly in agreement about Polish people generally having a low tolerance for BS and a high regard for personal freedom. I asked Szymon whether there were any other factors beyond Polish skepticism that might explain Watchtower's damning losses.
The progress of internet made critical information about the Watchtower movement very easy to find. Also, many publications were translated from English into Polish and published. For example, the main work in which I participated as a translator and proofreader, and I found good publisher for this, is Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz, with whom I corresponded for 11 years. More and more publications, both internet publications and produced by publishing houses, it contributed in great measure to opening people's minds. But the last years I observed there is a very great progress in building new YouTube channels by former witnesses. Many former witnesses opened their YouTube channels because they feel moral obligation to help their former brethren and open their minds on some injustice, on untrue in the organization. And it is now, I think, it speeds up the work among witnesses, because it is very easily to have on your smartphone a program from YouTube channel which explains in very practical and just sometimes visible way, by some diagrams, by some photocopies, what is wrong with the Watchtower.
As a YouTuber myself, I was fascinated to see Szymon single out this relatively new medium as an especially valuable resource in combating Watchtower's influence and debunking witness teachings. One Polish ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTube channel that has recently burst onto the scene is Światuse, hosted by my friends Sarah and Edwin, whom I'd previously had the pleasure of interviewing in my bunker or studio in Croatia. I caught up with them to find out what had moved them to take the leap into starting their own channel.
When we were in your bunker, we saw it's not hard, it's easy.
Yeah.
You just, I don't know how to say.
Fix your hair.
Fix your hair.
Yeah.
Okay, everything is good, let's start. So.
Yeah, because before that we thought too much about everything. Oh, we can't record anything because it won't be perfect. We are not perfect, and and then you just do first step and it's so easy.
Yeah, okay. And you also, presumably, did you get any feedback in Poland from appearing on those interviews?
A lot feedback.
I have thousands of comments
we are in such a state of shock because it's only been 2 months, and it's a lot.
Yeah, there are so many comments below videos, but I think the more important are emails we are still getting from people, and they really need help. Because our channel, it's not strict for Jehovah's Witnesses
or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses,
and it's called Światuse. It means worldly people, something like that.
And in Poland, in Poland, Światuse it's very negative word, because Jehovah's Witnesses would say, "Oh, he's such a Światus, he's such a worldly people, worldly man."
It's worse than.
But we try to turn it to a good thing.
Okay, so there's a bit of humour.
Yeah.
In the title.
There are so many people who wants to know more about Jehovah's Witnesses, about their beliefs and about their policies, and they are in shock when they heard about shunning. They still don't believe in about blood transfusion. They know
they know
many
that thing,
things.
but they always thought that it was that's such a policy that no one is really doing.
Yeah, but we tell them that people died before because of this policy, and we tell people why Jehovah's Witnesses behave like this, why they don't have contact with families member. So people are in shock, and they are. They send us so many emails because they want to thank us.
Because they started to understand their family, their friends. There are many men or women whom partners are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they had problems to understand.
Yeah, why is he doing those things?
Yeah. What should I do? And we cannot say what he or she should do, but they better understand it, and they can communicate better with their Jehovah's Witnesses spouses or families.
I could relate to Edwin and Sarah finding fulfillment through their work on YouTube, and I found myself in deep admiration of their dedication given the challenge facing them as parents to balance their activism with providing for their children. I was also fascinated to follow up with Edwin to get his thoughts on his first protest, especially since he'd apparently been battling nerves during it.
I'm impressed that so many people just stand next to our advertise and just read the information. There were many conversations with people who thanks us for doing that job, because they can see that need to inform people about their policies.
I'm calling this film The Polish Exodus. Do you think we've seen the end of the Polish Exodus?
We hope it started.
Yeah.
Go big.
And as we said, we hope it's just started. Many of people have enough courage to share with their stories, and YouTube is a
Great
way
tool.
to do that.
Yeah.
So I think they just started to share their stories.
I especially think about teenagers and kids, because now they go to the meetings because their parents told them so. But one day, I hope before they get baptized, they start to research, and maybe they won't get baptized, and they can make decision on their own.
As Edwin and Sarah have already demonstrated, both on their YouTube channel and elsewhere, sharing one's experience as an ex-Jehovah's Witness can act as a powerful deterrent to other people joining. With this in mind, I visited Ania, another of the Warsaw protesters, who I knew had her own story to tell.
Więc historia, o której chciałam dzisiaj opowiedzieć, dotyczy bardzo dziwnych zachowań starszych w moim konkretnie zborze. Więc sytuacja wyglądała tak, że starszy... może tak. Wyjechaliśmy większą grupą na wyjazd kempingowy. Była to grupa, szczerze mówiąc, z punktu widzenia świadków bardzo odpowiednia, bo była z nami starsza kilkanaście lat od nas pioniarka. Był to wyjazd z większą grupą, nie pamiętam, około 6 czy 7 osób. I po tym wyjeździe pewna osoba zaczęła szerzyć plotki, że ja i tam jeden z chłopaków obecnych tam uprawialiśmy seks i sprawa doszła do starszych, więc starsi zboru postanowili, że jeden z nich przyszedł do mnie na rozmowę, do mnie i mojej mamy. Dodam, że nie byłam wtedy jeszcze pełnoletnia, miałam bodajże 16 albo 17 lat. Starsi zboru przyszli, jeden starszy przyszedł przeprowadzić ze mną rozmowę. Rozmowa polegała na tym, że jakby on przyszedł powiedzieć, że doszło do niego takie plotki i chciałby wyjaśnić sytuację. Moja odpowiedź była zdecydowana, że jeżeli w ogóle mamy rozważać te kwestie, to przede wszystkim powinniśmy rozważyć, że osoba, która zaczęła szerzyć takie informacje, jest winna oszczerstwa i to z tą osobą powinno być wyjaśnione. Natomiast starsi uważali, że nie istnieje coś takiego jak domniemanie niewinności. Wprost przeciwnie, jesteś winny, dopóki nie udowodnisz, że jest inaczej. Więc więc starszy zboru, który u mnie był, uznał, że powinnam dostarczyć zaświadczenie od ginekologa, że jestem dziewicą i w jakiś sposób miałoby to udowodnić, że oskarżenia są nieprawdziwe. Było to dla mnie bardzo dziwne i bardzo, po pierwsze, totalnie niestosowne, po drugie, było kompletnie absurdalne, ponieważ ja już wtedy nie byłam głosicielką, nie byłam ochrzczona. Jedyna osoba, której mógł dotyczyć komitet sądowniczy, to był tamten chłopak, ale nie jestem w stanie zrozumieć, w jaki sposób zaświadczenie o tym, że ja jestem dziewicą, miałoby w jakikolwiek sposób świadczyć o jego niewinności bądź winie. Więc powiedziałam temu starszemu, że nie zgadzam się na to, bo wiedziałam, że takie badanie samo w sobie jest dość inwazyjne. Ponadto byłoby to dla mnie bardzo poniżające doświadczenie i bardzo stresujące i nie chciałam się na to zgodzić. Poza tym powiedziałam temu starszemu, że nie zgadzam się też na to, ponieważ plotki wcale mogą mnie ustąpić, jeżeli dostarczę takie zaświadczenie, ponieważ są znane przypadki, że dziewczyny, które są dziewicami, nie mają jakby sama błona dziewicza nie świadczy o zachowaniu czystości, że tak powiem, bo są przypadki, kiedy błona dziewicza jest naruszona w inny sposób, a są też przypadki, kiedy ludzie uprawiają seks w inny sposób, który nie prowadzi do przerwania błony dziewiczej, więc w żaden sposób to zaświadczenie nie byłoby w żaden sposób decydujące i w żaden sposób nie ukróciłyby tych plotek. Natomiast kiedy powiedziałam o tym starszemu, to on zareagował bardzo dziwnym zainteresowaniem. Skąd ty wiesz takie rzeczy? Skąd ty wiesz, że istnieje coś takiego jak seks oralny i analny? Czy ty oglądasz porno? Ty musisz oglądać pornografię, bo skąd byś to wiedziała? Byłam bardzo zdziwiona. Powiedziałam, że przecież takie rzeczy, takie informacje są nawet w książce Pytania młodych ludzi, ale zaczęła się seria bardzo dziwnych dla mnie pytań i zupełnie niezwiązanych z tą całą historią. Zupełnie ta rozmowa poszła w bardzo dziwnym kierunku, bo starszy zaczął pytać, czy oglądam pornografię, czy się masturbuję, czy myślę o seksie, czy miewam jakieś sny erotyczne, więc to było bardzo w kierunku. Miałam wrażenie, że to już nie jest, to już nie ma na celu żadnego ustalenia tutaj, jak przebiegła ta sprawa, tylko że w jakiś sposób to go podniecało. Szczerze mówiąc, ten konkretny starszy miał tendencję do zadawania bardzo niestosownych pytań albo wygłaszania bardzo niestosownych komentarzy do dziewcząt, które były niepełnoletnie albo bardzo młode. Pamiętam też inną sytuację. W czasie kongresu zaczął mi się okres. Ja miałam chyba wtedy 12 albo 13 lat. Byłam kompletnie nieprzygotowana na to, więc pierwsze, co zrobiłam, udałam się do punktu pielęgniarskiego i właśnie ten starszy tam był. Ja byłam z moją koleżanką, byłam strasznie zestresowana. I on zaczął zadawać pytania odnośnie mojego okresu. Tak jakby miałam wrażenie, że w jakiś sposób podnieca go albo że w jakiś sposób daje mu to poczucie władzy, że doprowadza młode dziewczyny do stanu takiego skrajnego zawstydzenia. Inna sytuacja z tym samym starszym podczas ośrodka pionierskiego, ponieważ wiem, że wy nie macie takiej instytucji, to była dość specyficzna polska tradycja, to trwający 2 tygodnie, około 2 tygodni wyjazd, na którym właśnie całymi rodzinami świadkowie jeździli, co było połączone z głoszeniem kilkugodzinnym i z taką częścią rekreacyjną, czyli jeziorem i różnymi zabawami, ogniskami. I wtedy miałam chyba 13 czy 14 lat i pompowałam swój materac pompką do rowera. I ten starszy przy wszystkich, przy grupie bodajże 10 czy 12 osób powiedział, że to mi dobrze zrobi na piersi. I ja byłam wtedy w tak wielkim szoku, że ja wtedy czułam się zawstydzona strasznie. Teraz sobie myślę, że to po pierwsze było obrzydliwe, skrajnie obrzydliwe, że on coś takiego powiedział. A z drugiej strony myślę, że jak bardzo szokujące jest to, że on czuł się w pełni uprawniony powiedzieć coś takiego w grupie kilkunastu czy ponad 10 osób i nikt nie zareagował. Jak bardzo on czuł się uprawniony do takich komentarzy, że tak naprawdę jedyną osobą, która powinna się wstydzić, był on, a wstydziłam się ja. I ja z tym poczuciem wstydu żyłam bardzo długo. Tak naprawdę dopóki nie wyszłam spoza organizacji, nie porozmawiałam z ludźmi spoza, nie miałam nawet świadomości, że to, co on robił, to było molestowanie seksualne. Jakby uświadomiłam sobie to dopiero po odejściu, bo wcześniej czułam się winna w jakiś sposób, ale teraz sobie myślę, czego miałam się czuć winna. Ja po prostu dojrzewałam, byłam dojrzewającą dziewczyną i nie było żadnego powodu, dla którego miałabym się tego wstydzić. To jest naturalna część życia. Dziwne jest to, że człowiek po 50 jest zainteresowany dojrzewaniem i sprawami, kwestiami fizjologicznymi nastoletnich dziewcząt. Myślę, że jest to bardzo... Myślę, że to jest bardzo niepokojące, jak wielką władzę mają starsi w zborach. Jak bardzo oni się czują uprawnieni do mówienia takich rzeczy i jak bardzo ja, mimo że tak naprawdę powinnam wtedy wstać i powiedzieć mu w bardzo ostrych słowach, co myślę na ten temat, to ja byłam tą stroną, która czuła się zawstydzona. Że ja czułam się zawstydzona tym, że po prostu ktoś powiedział obleśny komentarz na mój temat. Teraz jako dorosła osoba odpowiadam bardzo ostro, ale wtedy byłam po pierwsze tak naprawdę jeszcze dzieckiem. Po drugie ważne jest to, że oni są w pozycji władzy i to takiej władzy, która jest trudna do wyobrażenia dla ludzi spoza. Po prostu ludzie, którzy nigdy nie byli świadkami, nie są w stanie sobie wyobrazić, jak wielką władzę mają tak naprawdę starsi i jak bardzo oni mogą powiedzieć cokolwiek i cokolwiek oni powiedzą może mieć ogromny wpływ na życie ludzi. Czasami jest to wręcz kwestia życia i śmierci.
Jehovah's Witnesses watching this might say not every elder is going to ask for a virginity certificate. In fact,
yes.
Probably that's very, very unusual. Do you think that the power that elders have makes it more likely for what happened to you to happen not just to you but to other women?
Former elder once told me that they have similar situation in his congregation.
So you know of other cases?
Yes, but that girl was baptized. So they told her that she either bring it or she will get this fellowship. In my case, I went to that physician and he refused. He just refused to do that examination, and I don't know what he told my mother. I don't know what my mother told elder, that one elder, but I didn't care anymore. Like I'm not gonna do this.
Anya's refusal to comply with the invasive, perverse demands of her overbearing elders was emblematic of a much wider rejection of Watchtower's iron-like grip that has been sweeping Poland for years and shows no signs of letting up. Having heard Anya's disturbing story and seen firsthand her passion to warn her fellow citizens, I felt I finally had the most likely reason for 11,000 Polish Jehovah's Witnesses being done with Watchtower's control. This is a country that has been through decades of hardship and oppression at the hands of various regimes, and it seems that a younger, more informed generation with access to the internet is now simply saying, you know what, enough is enough. My time in Poland had been profoundly moving and inspiring. I had met some truly inspirational and dedicated people who are showing the world what can be achieved when ex-cult members work together and channel their energy into healthy and productive forms of activism. Not only are these activists providing a public service by warning their fellow citizens against joining a controlling and exploitative group, they are also extending a lifeline for those still inside the organisation who know there are resources waiting for them on the other side once they're finally in a position to make their own bid for freedom. All that remains is to give the final word to Maciej, Patrick, Szymon, Edwin, Sarah and Anya by letting them share their message for those they are most anxious to reach, their Polish brothers and sisters. I'd like you to speak to the camera there, and I'd like you to give a message in Polish to any Jehovah's Witnesses who might be watching this video.
Okay, yeah. I'm doing so.
Yeah.
Witam Was teraz po polsku, no i tutaj chciałbym skierować do Was na prośbę Lloyda kilka słów. Otóż chciałbym Was zachęcić do tego, żebyście nie bali się, znowu użyję tego zwrotu, wyjrzeć poza regał z literaturą, żebyście oglądali materiały, które są publikowane na YouTubie, żebyście czytali forum Świadkowie Jehowy w Polsce. I raz jeszcze chciałbym podkreślić to, jeżeli jesteś Świadkiem Jehowy i odcięto Cię od rodziny, zabroniono Ci wnikać w to dlaczego, zignoruj to. To jest Twoja rodzina i chcę, żebyś w tej chwili wziął telefon, zadzwonił albo napisał zupełnie inaczej niż pokazano kilka lat temu na zgromadzeniu. Żebyś to Ty zadzwonił lub napisał do tych, których zostawiłeś, których kazano Ci zostawić. Nawiąż kontakt, odbuduj relacje. To jest Twoja rodzina. Żaden starszy w Polsce, żaden starszy w komitecie oddziału i nikt z ciała kierowniczego nie weźmie odpowiedzialności za to, co mówi. Oni się wymigają, mówiąc, że my nic takiego nie sugerowaliśmy. To jest tak inscenizowane. Ja chcę, żebyś Ty wziął odpowiedzialność za to, że dałeś się zmanipulować. W tym momencie odzyskaj swoją rodzinę, śledź materiały spoza regału i nie poddawaj się kształtowaniu i programowaniu tej amerykańskiej doktrynie.
American doctrine, that's what it's about. Gosh.
Drodzy Świadkowie Jehowy, pamiętajcie, że my, byli Świadkowie Jehowy, nie jesteśmy waszymi wrogami. My was kochamy, wy was szanujemy jako ludzi, chcemy dla was jak najlepiej, ale uważamy, że nie znacie całej prawdy. Jest wam podawany tylko wycinek prawdy, podczas gdy prawda jest o wiele ciekawsza, o wiele głębsza, o wiele wspanialsza. Ja, kiedy kilkanaście lat temu zacząłem czytać Biblię bez okularów strażnicy, interesować się historią chrześcijaństwa, historią religii, znalazłem dużo więcej, nieporównywalnie dużo więcej wartościowych informacji, prawdziwych informacji, które uwolniły mój umysł, zapewniły mi pokój serca i umysłu. I ten Bóg, którego teraz znam, ten Jezus Chrystus, którego teraz znam, i ci ludzie, z którymi mam relacje, nie są oparte na jakimś systemie, który ma na celu mnie ustawić w jakiś sposób, zniewolić, ale pokazuje mi swobodne, naturalne działanie, gdzie czuję się normalnym człowiekiem i mogę mieć relacje z różnymi ludźmi i nie czuję się zniewolony, nie czuję się przymuszany do niczego, a jeżeli cokolwiek dobrego robię, wypływa to z mojego serca, a nie z przymusu. Dlatego zachęcam Was, otwórzcie swoje umysły, spróbujcie spojrzeć szerzej, zrozumcie, że nie da się na takim pokarmie duchowym, jaki jest Wam dawany, daleko zajść, bo to jest naprawdę bardzo mały wycinek i to często bardzo nieprawdziwy.
Może się powtórzę trochę, ale generalnie zachęcam Was do tego, żeby zrobić pierwszy krok. Wielu z nas po prostu zaczynało od tego, że odważyło się sięgnąć po takie materiały, które nie są dozwolone przez ciało kierownicze i zaczęło studiować. I generalnie my jako byli świadkowie Jehowy nie mamy nic do Was jako do świadków Jehowy. Nam nie podobają się pewne polityki, które powodują, że ludzie tracą życie, albo to, że ludzie, że są rozrywane rodziny. I zależy nam na tym po prostu, żebyście wiedzieli o tym, że to jest problem i że to trzeba zmienić. Dlatego zachęcam Was bardzo serdecznie do tego, żebyście po prostu odważyli się zacząć poznawać więcej rzeczy niż to, co mówi ciało kierownicze.
No dobra, to pewnie powtórzę to, co mówił Edwin, ale nie bójcie się testować swojej wiary i sprawdzać tego, o czym ma mówić ciało kierownicze, bo wiem, że Wy chcecie dobrze, chcecie ufać, chcecie w to wierzyć, ale naprawdę jest tak, może się okazać, że jesteście oszukiwani, więc jeśli naprawdę w to wierzycie, nie bójcie się tego sprawdzić. Okej, that's it. Short and quick.
Drodzy bracia, w 2012 roku zostało nam powiedziane, że w Polsce będzie 200 000 świadków. W związku z tym potrzeba bardzo dużo sal królestwa. Mamy rok 2019, a świadków nie jest 200 000, tylko chyba 115 i będzie coraz mniej. Bardzo polecam Wam, żebyście przeanalizowali swoje wierzenia i upewnili się, czy na pewno ci ludzie, którzy masowo odchodzą od organizacji w tym momencie, są wstrętnymi odstępcami, czy może ludźmi, którzy poznali prawdę, tą prawdziwą prawdę o tym, co nas uczono. Sprawdźcie to sami, sprawdźcie to w swoich Bibliach, sprawdźcie swoje publikacje. Nie wchodźcie na stronę odstępców, przynajmniej nie od razu, jeśli tak uważacie. Sprawdzajcie to sami, bo jest to możliwe, żeby to zobaczyć. Sprawdźcie rok 75, co mówiono o tym. Sprawdźcie, czy zakaz transfuzji krwi ma poparcie w Biblii. Sprawdźcie, czy zakaz komunikowania się ze swoimi bliskimi ma poparcie w Biblii. I żyjcie sami dla siebie, a nie dla organizacji z Ameryki, która każe wam głosić, każe wam oddawać swoje życie na ołtarzu tej organizacji. Po prostu żyjcie dla siebie.
Istnieje takie polskie przysłowie, że prawdziwa cnota krytyk się nie boi. Myślę, że tak samo jest z prawdą. Jeżeli dana informacja jest prawdziwa, to żadna krytyka czy żadna inne informacje nie powinny w żaden sposób tego zmienić. Tak naprawdę, jeżeli odstępcy kłamią, a świadkowie Jehowy mówią prawdę, to nie powinno Wam zająć dłużej niż 5 minut sprawdzenia tego i przekonania się, że jesteście w organizacji prawdziwej. Ale jeżeli istnieje chociaż cień wątpliwości, to warto się zastanowić, jaki powód ma ciało kierownicze, dlaczego w ogóle nie pozwala wam szukać takich informacji, bo jeżeli mówiliby tylko prawdę, to żadne inne informacje nie powinny tego zmienić. Więc myślę, że każdy z was powinien się zastanowić osobiście, dlaczego tak bardzo się wam odradza szukanie informacji na temat świadków.
And one more. Can you give a message to the camera, to the governing body?
I have nothing to say.
Why?
Because I think that these 8 men have blood on their hand, and they are guilty of the death of many people. I don't even know what to say to person who just killed people because they had some ideas about some really old thing in Old Testament about eating blood, and I have truly no words. I'm taking matters into my own hands now. Let's face it, we only got this life to live out. So follow me, I'm ready to go. I'll take the lead, I'm ready to go. Bumps in the road, many obstacles, but when we fall, we get up and go, baby. The way they think is paradoxical. Captured you in a foggy cloud, baby. Standing on my